Hello out there, this is Wakeangel2K1 coming at you with a review of the Robots in Disguise Windblade mold. Yes! Windblade from the Robots in Disguise cartoon is translated into an action figure form, and the studiously observant of you may realize that this is actually the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive repaint that came released in a 3-pack with Fortress Maximus and Brainstorm. And this is the first way that the mold was ever made available. Now, I was gonna wait for the retail release, but I saw some package shots of it, and it's just so red. It's like it's so red. Like Windblade's like they didn't even try to catch her color scheme. They just put her out there like. I understand when the basic sized strong arm was all just a big sea of blue with almost no paint, because that was a basic size figure that you were supposed to snap armor bits onto. But when they don't even bother to paint a deluxe, they're not getting me. However, this Windblade, who's basically cosplaying as Fortress Maximus with her color scheme, is actually painted very nicely, and I really like this color scheme. Mostly because way back when they first put the poll out, I wanted a female Autobot who could turn into a jet and wielded a sword, but I didn't want her to be red and black. I actually believe at the time that I voted for either blue and white or blue and orange to be her primary color scheme. I don't remember which. But I definitely wanted her to have more blue, and I didn't want her to be red and black, because, you know, that's just so cliche fan character. It's kind of like Shadow the Hedgehog. But, before I lose all of my viewers, let's talk about the figure itself. It is, let's Windblade. Let's zoom in, get a good look at her. Her face is very cartoon Windblade. It's actually very accurate to her look in the comic book. She has the lipstick, she has the pseudo kabuki makeup, but her hair is gray. I don't know, like, I know it's not really hair, but I think they made it gray so it looks like Fortress Maximus's headmaster, but you know, it just kind of makes her look like a little old lady with gray hair now. I mean, why couldn't they at least make that black? You know, to simulate her geisha hair. Her little geisha fan thing is painted red, and it is still a removable accessory. Look, you can even see it has like thingies. Yeah, that's nice. Pegs right back in there. And look at that, I didn't have to look. And you may notice by now that she has a really well expressive ball jointed head. Moving down to her chest plate, you can see she has a big old sticker, where in the Robots in Disguise line, that will be the stupid poker chip. But here, it's actually a very nice silver sticker with some Windblade-esque lines and her faction symbol. And it looks good that way. Now, her shoulder pads are actually a solid part of her shoulder sculpt, which is a shame, but it looks like they don't really get in the way of anything when you move them around, except maybe that. And her ball joints are nice and tight. I guess that's what you get for a nice comic convention exclusive version. She has a bicep swivel, although it is a really tight bicep swivel. Like, I feel like I'm putting stress on the stem of her ball joint when I bend her bicep. She has a pin elbow. Very nice. Not too tight, not too loose. But there's no wrist movement. Wrist joints are pretty important in a character that has a sword. I'm surprised that she doesn't have any wrist movement. But she does have a waist joint. I mean, the way she transforms, she kind of needs a waist joint, so it's good to see that she has that much in common with the Generations toy. She has ball jointed hips. They go out, they go forward, they go backward. Good hips, good hips. And she has knees. They go about a solid 90 degrees, no further. Although you can cheat with her transformation joint. I mean, you expose a bit of stem there, but then, I don't know, from certain angles you might be able to ignore it. Let's see. Yeah, see? I guess. And her feet move, although it is a transformation hinge and not a point of articulation really, so yeah. Although it can help a little bit, I suppose. Alright. So she has a fantastic paint job. She's well articulated. Although she has a massive backpack. Yeah, I mean, the kibble is the same kind of kibble and in the same place as the Generations version of the figure, except it is a heck of a lot bigger. This is a much bigger nose cone. Let us bring out the original Generations version for a comparison. As you can see, the new Robots in Disguise toy is slightly shorter, and she has a little bit of a smaller head, plus she has no nose. But, you know, the figure's still, you know, she's still distinctly recognizable as Windblade, and for that, I'm happy. Although, again, with the shape of the wings, this is, despite the fact that it's a cartoon licensed toy, it actually seems to have more in common with the comic book appearance of her. From the shape of her chest plate to the shape of her wings, this just seems more comic book accurate to me. Neat, although, you know, I still like the original Windblade. She just, you know, this is a cool looking figure to me, at least. Although you can see mine, I put Fake Buster's heel enhancements to allow my Windblade to stand a little easier. I was going to do a review, but then RedX, a friend of mine here on YouTube, he went and did a review of them first. So I'll just link in the description his video where he reviews these things. And I'll also link to Fake Buster's Shapeways store if you want to buy those. But yeah, like, she doesn't need those heel enhancements because unlike the original Generations Windblade, they thought ahead to give her a really wide foot. And when you're not trying to stand her on a towel on a chair, it's a nice wide foot that has a heel spur that goes quite a bit farther back, and it makes the figure much easier to stand despite the significantly bigger backpack. I mean, look, you see how her backpack neatly tucks away and hers does not? Alright, so let's take a look at what this Windblade figure comes with. Windblade, of course, comes with a sword in a scabbard, very much like the Generations toys, although it is a lot bigger. It's a very thick scabbard. Although it does have, it lacks this thing at the front, but it does have a peg up here instead, and a holding point here, along with some slots on the side. So let's go ahead and stick it to the figure in the various ways. Windblade can hold her scabbard thusly, you know, although, like I said, because of her lack of wrist articulation, you can't really make her look like she's going to draw the sword out of the scabbard like her Generations counterpart can do. That's her one drawback, no wrists. I don't like that. She really needed them. You can always just peg it in this way. You know, if, I am not going to pretend that that's a gun. No. Your sword scabbard is not a gun, Windblade. That's stupid. And, of course, you can just pull the sword out of the scabbard. And look at that. That is really, really pretty. It is, you know, her traditional sword with that rotor in the hilt, just like we're used to seeing. Although it is not made out of translucent material this time, and it is painted silver. So, you know, they replaced the energy blade with one that actually looks like it's made of real metal. Although it is very, very similar. It almost looks like it's a straight up remold. In fact, I think it might be the same sword. Just, it might be. Yeah, it's the exact same size, And now that I look at them right next to each other, they have the same molding. I think it's the exact same sword that the Generations toy has. They just painted it different. Now there is one issue I have, and it is the San Diego Comic-Con paint job. They applied such a thick coating of red paint to the hilt. I don't know how well it's going to show up, but you can see just from one insertion into her hand, it already got scraped. Yeah, I mean, it is so tight in that hand that it scraped a bit of the paint off. And I really don't like when paint gets scraped off of an accessory because it just is ill-fitting. Now, she does have the same slots on her thigh that you can put the scabbard into, but the scabbard is so huge and that peg is there that it actually limits her leg articulation. The Generations toy, the scabbard didn't get so in the way. I mean, you can maneuver it around the wing, I guess, but that is just such a... That's an albatross hanging around your neck. I don't like that. That peg is way too long and impractical. It didn't need to be. Plus, you can't attach it to her backpack like you could with the other windblade, and that's a shame. But still, despite the fact that the scabbard is oversized and the thick paint layer makes it so that it's difficult for her to hold it, and her wrist joints make it so that she can't two-hand wield it like the original windblade could, it is still a really cool accessory just based on the merits that it's a really fine sword. So there is that. And oh yes, the VTOLs, they still rotate, but they're tightly pegged in there and they don't spin. Although they do still do this thing, so you can have it so that she has a smooth wing, or you can rotate them around so she can do her wind attack. Plus her wings kind of flap a little bit. Woo. But seriously, I think they just fold back to give her arms some room. So yeah, I really, really love this paint color. I love this color scheme on Windblade, because it's actually closer. I know like I said, she's just cosplaying as Fortress Maximus, but it is actually much closer to the color scheme that I voted for in the poll. So let's move her on to plain mode and finish up this review. Windblade's plain mode is actually more accurate to the comic book than the Generations toy was. And I keep sounding like a broken record to say that, but hey, it's true. Aside from the fact that the tail is a bit thick, this actually is a lot more like the plane that we see her turn into in the Windblade comic book series. So, the miniseries. So, looks darn good. I mean, you have a couple extraneous little things here. The only problem I really have with it is the blatantly exposed robot arms. I mean, they aren't even trying to do anything there. At least Starscream folded his hands away, but these are just kind of up against the sides of her body. This is another case of the plain mode is not so much for disguise as it is just to help her get around a bit faster. And yes, she has this cute little landing gear that folds away, comes out, very nice. Compared to the Generations toy, you can see the wings aren't quite as fat, but at least she doesn't have a big gaping hole in the middle of the plane. Yeah, and so, arms aside, blatantly exposed arms aside, it's actually a really nice jet. Of course, that's not to say this is a bad looking jet. I always did like it, just that hole was a bit of a problem. And the Takara's increased use of red, which was more comic book accurate, made this plane look a little better than the mostly black scheme with the blatantly exposed robot legs on the roof. Yeah, the Takara paint job of this was better, but it's still a pretty good jet in terms of its molding. And, yeah, the secret to this one is this panel. See? If it wasn't for that panel, she'd have a hole, just like the Generations toy. So yeah, really, really nice jet. The only problem is that there's no real good way to store her weapon in jet mode. There is a little hole right here. You can probably put her on a flight stand with it. It's actually 3mm compatible instead of 5mm compatible, like, again, the Generations toy has. Yeah, like, a lot of this is very, very similar to the Generations toy. Like, even the transformation scheme is almost exactly like the Generations toy. You fold the cockpit over her face. In this case, there's this little door panel here that hides the head. So, you rotate the waist around, then you separate the knees, the front panels from the legs, and fold it over her back. Like, it's really very similar. The only difference is that they simplified the chest and arm transformation so that Windblade's head doesn't need to pull into her chest and her arms don't need to move from here to here. Although that just means that her hands are more exposed. They simply peg into the sides. It's very similar to the Generations form, except they simplified it, which, okay, it is a Robots in Disguise toy, and the Robots in Disguise line is supposed to be simplified compared to the regular Generations because they expect younger kids to be playing with it, and I guess in that way, they accomplished their task. It's still very good, though. Just because it's been simplified for kids does not make it a bad toy by any means. In fact, in terms of structural stability and even comic book accuracy, it's better than the Generations toy. So whenever I can say that about one of the cartoon licensed toys versus the collector's toy, like that's not something I can say very often. Of course, seeing how this is a Comic-Con exclusive, it actually is a collector's grade toy, but only because of its paint job and color scheme. Because like I said, the retail paint job sucks. So yeah, if you have the patience to repaint, or you really don't mind a Windblade that has so much red that she looks absolutely nothing like the cartoon version of the character, then go ahead and get the retail release, because I spent almost $40 to get this as this version, and getting the box set is even more expensive. And I don't have room for a Fortress Maximus, so I will just stick with my Fortress Maximus cosplaying Windblade. But yeah, very good, very good. I recommend go get one. Get this Windblade mold when it comes out. Maybe hold off for a repaint. Maybe get the Takara version, because I think the Takara RAD toys aren't that much more than the domestic release. But yeah, this is a very good Windblade mold. Everyone should have this Windblade mold if they are a fan of Windblade. Windblade. This is Wakeangel2K1 signing off.